Hello and welcome to another edition of The Front Page on GNAT TV. My name is Andrew McKeever, the managing editor of the Manchester Journal, and I'll be your host today. And today it's my pleasure to have with us in our studios here in Sunderland two gentlemen from Hunter Park who are here to talk to us a little bit about some of the exciting new things that are going to be coming up here. Today we have with us in the studio Chris Ames, who's the president of Hunter Park, and Andrew King, who's the vice president of their board of directors. Gentlemen, welcome to GNAT.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Good to have you both here. Many of you will remember that Hunter Park, Riley Rink at Hunter Park has been here since 1997 when the building was first put up, and it's also been a fixture in our community since that time, and has been the scene for ice skating, hockey, concerts, special events of all kinds. But the scope of the venue is now going to be expanded a little bit, as I understand, and these folks will tell us a little bit more about that. So Andrew, get us started. Let me start with you. What are some of the new things that folks here in the community can look forward to hearing about at Hunter Park, and what's the next phase in the development of your facility there?
Sure, great. We, as a board, met about 2 years ago and had a strategic plan done. And it was decided at that point that we would continue with the vision that the founders had come up with back in the 90s of trying to be a full-service civic center where we actually have stuff going on all year round, and we are, at that point, a lot more than just a fantastic sheet of ice. At that point, we decided that we would hire a president who could help us take that to the next level. A lot of development work to be done, fundraising, as well as actually the construction of the new fields that we're talking about and the fairgrounds. So enter Chris Ames, who was a board member for a long time. We stole him off the board, and we turned him into that position of president, and he's really helping us take this to the next step. So some very exciting stuff coming down the pike that we'll be talking about over the next few minutes.
Well, it sounds like a lot of it involves the area outside the rink. You have new fields under development and construction. Is that the primary focus of what's going on? That's
certainly the newest area that we're heading in, and we believe it's going to be a very stabilizing piece for the overall park itself. And as Andrew said, it's helping us to move more towards the civic center environment that the founders originally wanted. What we had in the back there behind the rink, and maybe a lot of people have never even seen it because you don't see it when you drive in, but as you make that turn to come back around towards the rink, off to your right is about a 23-acre piece of property that has been basically a hayfield for all this time. And the rink bought it, I think it was about 6 years ago, and took it over, and it sat there, and we've looked at it as a definite asset to the whole organization. And as of last year, we started to act on that through the strategic plan initiative. And we've taken one half of that field at this stage of the game and recently completed an events field, and which has been named Hunter Fairgrounds back there with the help of Susie Hunter's family and their foundation. Okay. So that's been done. We've already had a couple of events on there. Phase 2 is the development of the southern end of the field, as Andrew made reference to, which is our goal is to turn that into an athletic environment with 3 separate full-size fields down at that end of the facility. And
how soon do you anticipate those 3 fields being ready for action?
We are in the fundraising stage of that right now. We've had a very nice gift from Judy and Derry Taylor for one field in its entirety, which is really spectacular. These are really significant fields. These are fields that are the same size as Applejack Field, so they're 120 yards by 70 yards, which is the size of a championship-sized soccer field. With the timing being so right at the moment, with Hildene transitioning from having provided fields for organizations such as Equinox Lacrosse Association over the years to really wanting to go back to their roots, which is more agricultural and educational, we just felt that this was an absolute must for this community. We need to have a place for these kids, youth organizations to have a home, and we hope that that someday going down the road, we are the home for all youth sports in the area, in combination with the rec center, and able to provide championship quality playing surfaces.
So these 3 playing fields will be in that 23-acre area there off to the side of the rink. Soccer, lacrosse, football?
Sure, football, field hockey. I mean, really anything that needs to use these large fields.
Wow.
The nice setup is that we're going to try and keep them formatted in such a way that not only can we use them for a number of different sports, but we can break them up. And though they will be 3 full-size fields from an adult perspective, they could easily be cut up into half that size or a third of that size for much younger use too. So if we had younger lacrosse or younger soccer, we could chop them up any way we effectively wanted to. Add to that the fact that in our plan with the design of the event field is not what I would call quite the same level of athletic field that we're going to be doing here, but it's certainly going to be a very good playable surface to add additional fields. So we could literally hold some sort of tournament over there where we might have as many as 7 or 8 fields right on our own location. In addition to the current soccer field that we have already associated with the ice rink itself.
And as I think a lot of people are already aware, there is a path that links our property to the rec center. And the rec center has fields as well. And in fact, in part of what they're doing at the moment, they're talking about redoing some of their fields and making them even better. And we could really have a pretty sizable tournament at that point if we use both of the facilities together.
That sounds like a lot of inventory fields. I mean, you must have the sense that there is a demand out there for that much extra, well, I won't say extra, but additional playing fields. Because we do have Applejack, we have the rec park, you already have one field over there just right next to the rink.
Yep, that's a great point.
Those fields tend to serve the local community and they do it very well. One of our goals, in addition to subsidizing the local athletic youth environment, is to encourage what I would call regional tournaments too, where we're inviting people in from, and we're hosting people from Connecticut, New Jersey, New York to come up here and use our facility in one of 2 fashions, either simply rent it as a facility rental from their point of view and they hold their own event at that stage, or what our goal here at Hunter Park is to actually be able to host these tournaments and do it soup to nuts. So there'll be a family in Connecticut who says it's the 3rd weekend in June. We're up in Manchester, Vermont that weekend because we have that great lacrosse tournament, and mom's going shopping downtown and we're having great dinners downtown. So we're looking really as a weekend destination to encourage people to come up here because there's so much activity going on with youth sports, and it's not a big deal nowadays to travel. It's as we both know, having kids, you don't give a lot of thought to saying, oh, this is in Massachusetts, jump in the car and go. We just do it. And it's not that big a deal to go a distance to these kind of tournaments because you can pack so much into them in one weekend that it really makes it worthwhile. And having everything available to us here in Manchester between the shops, the restaurants, the inns, hotels, and everything else just makes it the perfect destination for that type of event.
Not only does Manchester have the infrastructure with everything that was just mentioned, shops, restaurants, and inns, but we also at Riley Rink have a wonderful facility that has bathrooms and locker rooms and showers, and I think in combination with all of that, we have a venue, or will have a venue if we can be successful with our fundraising, that would really attract people and make people excited about coming here. One of the interesting things that I've seen with my young children coming up through the ranks of playing lacrosse and soccer and ice hockey is that when we find out that we're going to a tournament in a specific place, my wife's reaction, because we also have a 4-year-old that has to go everywhere with us, is either, yes, we're going to that place that has a play structure and has a picnic pavilion and has wonderful facilities and has bathrooms nearby and has a place to get some food and all those things, or it's, oh, we're going to that place again. So we really are encouraged to make this a place where all of the support that goes with a young athlete is excited about coming to our facility. So,
well, that's pretty interesting. Let me just touch on or ask you about the other side of that, the event field. Earlier this year, you had the art and craft show that used to be based at the Hildene Fairgrounds over there on Ridgeville Road. Will you be bringing more of those types of events to that? Like, will that be a regular fixture there as well, and perhaps other shows like that?
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely, that's the nice thing. As Andrew said, we have the full facility here. We could put something on. We could potentially host a car show, for instance, that has million-dollar automobiles inside the rink that are protected from the elements, but we
Okay.
can also have, 200 cars parked out in these fields too. And we have the kitchen and the rest of the facilities there that make it very convenient for all the, guests to come through and everything else. We are looking, the craft producers who are, that's the company that puts on the craft fair that has been at Hildene for all those years. They will be back there in October. We're looking at the VSO coming there and doing their 4th of July concert that they have normally done at Hildene. They will be up there with us this year. We're looking at a potential barbecue competition and a number of different things where we could potentially be to the stage where we have an event going on out in the field and maybe something completely different going on inside the rink at the same time. So we really have a lot to be able to play with on that basis.
Now you mentioned the word concerts in the course of your answer there, and that was, you anticipated a question I was going to ask. Back in the early days of the rink, I remember several concerts during the summer at the rink itself. At least that's where the stage would be for the performers. We haven't seen those for the last couple of years, and I guess I just wondered, is that any possibility that we might see a return to some musical events like that, or is that just, or the economics of that just too complicated?
No, I think that that's something that we'd very much like to do. The economics of that are a little bit complicated, and when we did concerts before, we often had a sponsor for those concerts, and that made it a lot easier for us because we knew that the big nugget of actually getting the performer to come to our facility was paid for. Then it was a matter of trying to collect as much as you could at the door and all those other things, vendors and food and beverage and. Without those sponsors, it's very difficult to do those things. But I think that once we have shown to the community that we are successful in doing what we want to do with the exterior of the space that we have, all this 35 acres, and that we're good stewards of all of that, we're going to have some things that are going to be coming to us that are going to be great. And one of those things is definitely focus on concerts. We're back communicating with the Vermont Symphony Orchestra, with the Manchester Music Festival, with all these great local entities, as well as ones from farther away. And I think that's a very good point. We want to do that.
Because I know one idea I remember hearing about a few years ago was to, rather than having some big name performance groups come in, that you could maybe look towards more local or Vermont-based musical entertainments or entertainment of any sort, I suppose. But
I think that's where we'll probably start off, heading in that direction, because one of the difficulties around here is the population. We don't have the kind of numbers that a Burlington has or an Albany has, obviously. So when you get into some of the bigger names that used to be there years ago, as Andrew said, they had to be subsidized because we simply didn't have the population to come to that to offset some of those costs through ticket sales and everything else. But as we develop this into a more centralized location in southern Vermont for sporting events and various other events, there's certainly no reason we couldn't possibly see heading back in that direction again. We have a nice piece of space inside the rink, but these fields open up even more opportunities for potential outside concerts and bigger venues. But I could very easily see in the not too distant future having a battle of the bands or something along those lines, where some of the local outfits are coming in here and playing and doing whatnot. Because music is a big part of it. We get asked about it all the time. People remember those days. So we really want to try and bring that back to whatever degree that we can, hopefully much sooner than later too.
It also, for us, I'm constantly amazed at how few people actually know anything about Riley Rink, and how few people in the community know anything about Hunter Park. If you're not a user of the facility, you have very little reason to ever turn down that road and come to our facility. So I think it's very important that we broaden that knowledge of our facility by getting involved in things like soccer and lacrosse and all those things. That will bring in a whole new group of people that have not used our facility before. And then getting back to doing social events, whether they're as simple as just having a wedding.
Right.
We do offer somebody the opportunity to have a beautiful tent out in this field that is just a spectacular setting. You really don't see any other homes anywhere near you. You have great views of Mother Myrick, of Mount Equinox, of Dorset Mountain. And then if it turns out that there's going to be terrible weather, you know what? Guess what? We also have this fantastic 35,000 square foot facility that we can move the event, wedding, whatever it might be, right into in the
Right.
case of bad weather. It's something
in
that not a
Plan
lot
B.
of facilities can offer.
Right.
So.
It is always amazing, having been there with the hockey program for the last 10 years, having kids go through it, how often people come from other areas of the state to come down and play in a hockey tournament or a hockey game. And they drive in when they see the sign and they see the gravel pit in front of them, and their assumption in their mind is that this is going to be a tin shack back there with a metal roof and we're going to freeze our butts off in this hockey rink. And then they drive in there and they see this facility that we have, and the amount of compliments that we get year after year from teams coming from other areas saying this is our favorite place to come play. It's a beautiful rink, it's an Olympic-sized rink, it's got a terrific warming room, you've got food here, parking is never an issue, everything is very well kept up, and we're constantly complimented, by other people who had no idea that this was here. And it's too good of an asset not to be promoting to a much heavier degree.
Sure. Speaking of the rink itself, is there anything new that will be coming in there that we'd want to know about, or is it basically the same sort of setup that we've been familiar with?
It's the same in the physical sense. I mean, we're always looking to bring new events and new things into there. We start off when the ice goes out in the beginning of March. We start right off where we put the indoor turf down. A lot of people don't know we even have that, and there's a strong soccer program, both adult and youth soccer program, that goes into place there. And then we start in with some of the indoor events. The Rotary has run March Money Madness there for the last several years. It's their intent to do that again. We will probably do some other indoor events. We're looking at possibly another antique show coming in there, possibly another possibly an indoor craft show coming in there. And then in July, we put the ice back down again, and we have a variety of ice and hockey related programs in the month of July. And then in August, we're right back to the ability to do more indoor, but hopefully more outdoor events too. So it's all part of the cycle, and as I mentioned before, it's terrific because there's no reason we can't be doing something inside and something completely different on the outside. Sure. If we just get everybody going in the right direction.
The turf has been really fun. Last year we had over 140 men playing indoor soccer. We had 8 different teams. It was really a fantastic venue for that. One of the things that we've done inside the building that I never would have known that there was this kind of interest for was bingo. Can you touch base on that a little bit?
The Knights of Columbus, right?
The Shriner, the Cairo Shriners, right, that used to be down in Pownell, had some difficulty with that facility down there, and they were looking for something different. And we were able to come into the picture there, and we now host 4 separate events for them, starting I think in May and going through into early October. And
how many people show up to these things?
The smallest one had about 560 people, and the last one we ran over 1,000 people. We were scurrying around, setting up tables at the last minute because we got a phone call that this bus had broken down on the other side of town, and they were sending another bus over to pick these people up. So by the time they got there, we were all set up, and we were over 1,000 people there, and we provide food for them, and they pretty much, it's a facility rental, so they run most of the operation itself. But it's amazing to see that many people in there. When you say bingo, you think 30, 40 people in a hall, but when you got 1,000 people in there and that last bingo is called, you don't want to be standing next to any doorways because they're gone very quickly too.
Yeah, I did make it over to one of them just to kind of have a look at that. It was really quite fascinating. I don't think I've ever gone to one before. It's certainly nothing without any folks there. I hadn't realized that it was quite as popular a thing as it apparently is.
It very much is, and we hope to maybe do some more things along those lines, because again, it's a good enough facility and we can split it up. We've been able to split the facility in half or in thirds. We have pipe and drape systems, so we can cut it down in size as to what you may need. We can clean it up some so it doesn't look quite so rink-like for weddings and things like that, and we can do a lot with it in that sense. And we've also put invested some donor money into the inside of the building itself. We've restructured some of the office setup and the pro shop setup in there, so it makes a little more sense for the moving forward with the whole organization at this stage of the game. And it gave me a place to sit down.
Some of the programs that are happening inside the rink that I love to see are are growing, and I think that they're really important to keep going in the future. We've got a group of special needs athletes that come in, and they use our facility. That is of no cost to them. We've gone out and bought some sleds that allow some of these participants to get out on the ice who couldn't possibly do so without the sleds. In addition to that, we've got a growing curling group that is coming out a couple nights a week and learning how to do that. And that required us painting all sorts of new lines on the ice when we put down the ice, and each year when we do that. We also have a figure skating group that is growing by leaps and bounds. So you know, the programs that are out there and existing are getting better and bigger you know, all the time.
What is your best guess as to the timeline when these new fields and the new expansion that you've been talking about will come to fruition? Is that something we could anticipate happening next year, or is that a 2 or 3 year process that we're?
Well, we'd like to think that that we're going to be successful with the remainder of our fundraising. You know, we have raised a lot of money already, and we've already put that money to good use. We have built the Hunter Fairgrounds. We have the money from the Taylor family for Taylor Family Field. There's a lot more that needs to be raised in order to get started. We have to build all 3 of these fields at the same time. There's some economies of scale at doing them at the same time. Doing them individually would increase the cost of each one, and we don't want to do that. So we will not start this project until we have all the funds needed to go ahead and be successful. But provided that we can do that over the next few months, we could actually start construction on these as soon as the ground thaws. And then it's really a full year of construction before the fields are done. And then there's a question as to how quickly you can actually start putting athletic events on them without just ruining them. As we know from our events field, you know, if you go too early, you do more damage than good. So there is a period of waiting for the grass to develop its root structure and to become stronger. But we're really talking about you know, full use of these fields if we're successful with our fundraising, not next year, but the year after.
Maybe 2014 then.
2014 could be a good time frame for us, yeah. And and that's the athletic field. I mean, the event field, you know, we'll be hosting things on there this coming summer again too. We still would like to give that a little bit more time, but certainly by mid to end of summer, it should be in pretty good shape for us to use from that end of it.
And one of the other exciting things I became aware of earlier this year was, I guess, the Race for the Cure, which again used to be based around Hildene, is also going to be coming up your way. Not next year, but would that be again in 2014? It's
being discussed. Yeah, there hasn't been anything settled on that. I believe they're going to stay at Hildene another year, and beyond that, I don't know what's going to happen with that. But we have had discussions with them, and as Seth knows over at Hildene, we are very open to talking to anybody who's done anything there that would be looking to make a change at some point too.
Yeah, totally different course, that's for sure.
Right, very much. We've had some running races already. We have what we call fourth on the 4th, which is a 5K or you know, whatever running race, where we had almost 150 people at that this last 4th of July, and that went very well. And it's a beautiful setup because the way we are hooked up is we have our main entrance coming off of Route 7, which runs through the facility. And then we also have an extension of the walking path that comes from the rec that cuts down through the center of the side of these fields, and may someday go beyond these fields on its way into Dorset. But we also pick up what is known as Pigpen Road that cuts back over to Route 30. So we have a very nice setup to not only funnel traffic in and out for bigger events, but to use for things like races and you know, those type of events too. And
also having Riley Rink there with the bathrooms and the showers and the lockers and the parking and all those things really makes it so that whether it's an athletic event such as a running race, we have a home base for all of these athletes to get dressed and to get ready. We have the ability to throw receptions for these people and parties and barbecues and whatever right there on site. We also, because of the fact that we're running Riley Rink, have a number of full-time employees who are there to help facilitate these types of events. And that's something that has been challenging for other organizations who don't have any sort of support from the standpoint of this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. We have full-time employees, we have part-time employees, we have a staff that is year-round, and we have that, that gives us the scalability to grow and to put on events that need support, because we have that support on staff already.
You know, one of the things I often hear about Manchester is that there's not a lot of things for kids to do, which sounds kind of amazing, I guess, when you stop and think about it. But the other demographic group that I guess also sort of feels a bit challenged in terms of having things to do is I guess the group in between kids who are in school and those of us who are nearing retirement, the sort of the 25 to 45 or 50-year-old demographic. It sounds like a lot of the things what you're trying to do here with your development of Hunter Park addresses some of the, I guess, things that group would like to do.
Yeah. Well, that's why the antique fair is well thought of, and so much so that's why they're looking at doing another one during the summer months. The crafts fair is well known and has brought people in from out of town every year that they have it there. Some of the concert series, yes, we want to look at concerts that would appeal to the younger crowd, but also certainly some of the older crowd. The Vermont Symphony Orchestra being there is in that area. We're very open to any ideas too. So if there are groups out there that say, hey, we would love to, you know, make use of your facility or talk to you about helping us put something together, you know, we're very open to doing that also too. So.
And I've had a lot of discussions with other people who are involved in boards of some of these other organizations, and I think that that a lot of these organizations are struggling with trying to figure out how to deal with the fact that you've got a group of people that want to listen to this type of music, and then you have this other group of people that want to listen to a completely different type of music. And how can organizations, I'll just throw the Manchester Music Festival, I mean, how do they deal with the fact that they have you know, a large section of donors who are on the older side, and they have this big group of people that are more our age, Ari's age, and how do you put those two groups together for the same concert and play music that both of those groups are going to be happy listening to? So I know that that's something that we're not the only ones who are struggling with a little bit, but I think the community as a whole has a bunch of really bright people who are trying to figure out how to make sure that we're catering to all those different groups. I know that in the soccer side of things, this area has had a long-standing history with great soccer. And of those 100 plus people who played indoor soccer, we opened it up to a younger group, and we got kids from college age and even from the high school age who were coming in and joining all these 30, 40, 50-year-olds and playing soccer together. And it was a really great community spirit during that few months that we were on the turf. So.
Well, it all sounds really exciting, and I certainly wish you guys well, and I'm sure the community does as well. There's an awful lot they think that facility has meant to this town and this area for the last 15 or so years, and it sounds like you're looking ahead to making it relevant and important for the next 15 years, and I'm sure we'll pass that too. It's
an exciting time. We're really looking forward to what we can do over there.
All right.
It's going to be fun.
Well, we could probably talk about this all for a while longer, but the clock on the wall says it's time to go. So thank you, Chris, the president of Hunter Park, and Andrew King, vice president of their board of directors, for being with us here today at GNet TV. And thank all of you for watching. My name is Andrew McKeever from the Manchester Journal. It's been my pleasure to be with you today, and have a great day. We'll see you next time.